Twilight. We know it. We love it. Oh, hi. Twilight. We know it, we love it. Most of us love it. But I've never read it. I love the movie franchise. I'm currently actually attempting to force my boyfriend to rewatch it with me. I'm trying to make it like a little yearly thing. He's not excited. I am. We watched the first 3 though. We just have Breaking Dawn left. So I'm getting there. But rewatching these movies and thinking about how much I love them, I realized that I never read the books. I did have all 4 at one point in time. Didn't read them though. I tried to, but my English just wasn't that great. I could speak it pretty fluently, but in terms of reading, I was really struggling with reading English books that weren't written on Wattpad by 12-year-olds. So actually, no, I tried to read it in 2010 or 2011 for the first time. So I didn't even know what Wattpad was back then. So yeah, never read it by the time I was eloquent enough. I only realized I could read real books 2 years ago, so that is a lie. Point is, didn't read it, couldn't really understand it, did try. And then I gave away all my books at one point because I was like, I'm never gonna read again. Stupid. That was really stupid of me, but whatever. So I thought, you know what, this is the year. This is the year I'm going to read Twilight. For the first time. Now, what books will I be reading? Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn. I am not touching Midnight Sun. I actually did have Midnight Sun for a little bit. I tried reading it, and we were like 30 pages in, and half a day of high school had passed, and I wanted to burn the book. So will not be touching Midnight Sun. Don't have the patience for that. How am I feeling? Terrified. I have heard a lot of things about Stephenie Meyer's writing. I do know she's one of those people apparently that definitely add too much. And in general, you know, I love Twilight so much, the movie franchise, but also all of the characters are problematic and I'm very well aware of that. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm terrified, but I'm excited. I think this is a journey that I need to go on. So yeah, I haven't started Twilight yet. I will be starting it within the next week or so, but I just wanted to get this intro out of the way today. I will check back in either halfway or when I have finished the first book, and I will be listening to them in case you're wondering. But yeah, wish me luck. This is gonna be a journey and we're gonna go on it together, and who knows, I might come out a wildly different person by the end of this. I know I would have if I read it when it came out. So we'll see, but it's gonna be fine. So I'm about halfway with Twilight. That is a lie. I am 62%, which is still halfway. Why am I being picky? Point is, I am very decently into the first book. Am I enjoying it? Yes. Am I shocked? Also yes. They are so much more obsessed with each other in the book than they are in the movies, which is kind of insane. Did not think that was possible, like in the slightest. Good for them though, I guess. Maybe this is because I am a fan of Kristen Stewart, but I do enjoy movie Bella a lot more than book Bella. I feel like she's just kind of mean, honestly, and annoying, shall we say. And Edward is Edward. Not really much to say about that, I suppose. The one thing though that I do want to comment on, since I've gotten to that part, is there were like criticisms about Edward finding Bella so extraordinary even though she's so normal, and people don't like that because she isn't special. She's just a normal kind of pick-me-ish girl. And I do have to say I disagree with that. I really like the fact that he saw her as like this extraordinary, amazing person, even though she isn't. She is just an ordinary pick-me-ish girl. And the reason for that is not because she is a pick-me and she's not like the other girls. The reason that I enjoy it is because I think it's very special when romantic partners look at each other and see each other as very special, extraordinary people, even though we're all just kind of normal in our own ways. So I do enjoy the fact that he sees her as this special person even though she's normal, because I feel like you should see your partner that way. That being said though, the codependency is actually insane. Like, I knew it was bad. You know, I've watched the movies. I know in New Moon she tries to throw herself off of a cliff to be delusional and see him, you know? So I know the relationship is very unhealthy, but you know, like, I am enjoying it a lot, and I'm taking Twilight for what it is, so that's why I'm enjoying it so much. You know, I watched the movies, I knew what to expect, I knew what I would be going into, so I'm not disappointed by any means. The only disappointment for me is that Kristen Stewart isn't the voice actress for the book. And then, you know, I'm just having a great old fun time, and that's really it. That being said, I am so happy that I chose the audiobook and not the physical books, because it drags. It is fun, but nothing happens. I feel like all of the books, even though I haven't even read any of the others, I feel like all of them could have had like half of their amounts cut out. But you know, it's okay, because again, I knew what I was getting myself into, so it doesn't bother me. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far. I will check in once I'm finished. So I'm back, and I have officially finished Twilight. What a ride is all I have to say. So, as I've mentioned probably multiple times by now, I've only ever watched the movies before. I've never read this. So it was very interesting seeing how Twilight compared to its movie adaptation, and I'm pretty excited to see how the rest of the series compares to the movie adaptation. I think for at least the first book they did a pretty decent job. Obviously some things happened differently, but overall I felt like if I'd read the book first and then watched the movies, it wouldn't be that big of a difference, which I think is what we all want when we get movie adaptations for books. So I'm pretty happy. I thought it was good. I think we can all agree that Twilight is technically not good, but it is fun, it's entertaining, it is, for many of us, nostalgic, and personally, I just enjoyed it. It was fun. That being said, I did actually enjoy the movies more than the reading experience. Maybe that's my soft spot for Kristen Stewart or Taylor Lautner, who knows, but the book was much more melodramatic, and it was like so badly melodramatic that it was actually kind of hilarious, because like, I believe in the existence of vampires before I believe that Bella's heart stops beating when Edward kisses her. Stephanie, what kind of crack were you on when you wrote this? Like, Twilight is so Wattpad coded, it's actually phenomenal. You know, I think most of us had our little Wattpad phase, and sometimes it's just fun returning to it, and books like these I feel are the perfect way of doing that. So overall, I did enjoy it. I thought it was fun, and I really can't complain at all. I mean, it's Twilight, you know, I knew what I signed up for. So next I'm going to be reading New Moon. I'm very torn on New Moon because story-wise, it's the most boring, at least in the movies. However, aside, like, if we ignore the character assassination part of Jacob Black where Bella, Jacob's my favorite character. He's kind of the only normal one. I have watched like plot summaries on this series, and I do know he's also melodramatic, but in Stephanie's world they all just seem to be like that, so I'm not surprised. But if we ignore that part in Eclipse, where at least I think it's Eclipse. I don't, like, my memory is befuddled right now, but the part where he forces Bella to, which is, you know, I don't know. Like, that part's not cool, and obviously can't root for a character who does that, which is why he does that, because Stephanie wanted us to root for Edward, but I just pretend that part didn't happen, and I can because it's fiction. So I will check back in once I have an update on New Moon. I'm sorry that I don't really have a lot to say about this, but I don't know. It's Twilight. There's really not much to say, I guess. Oh, one more thing. Alice is so annoying in the books. She's very pushy. All the vampires are pushy with Bella, and I've heard this criticism many times over, but now that I'm reading the books, I'm experiencing it for myself. So even though this has been said many times before, the vampires treat Bella like she is an infant, and it's incredibly irritating to watch because she is a child, she is stupid. I think we all can agree that throughout the entirety of the series, she makes poor decision after poor decision, but also don't really like reading about these creatures treating her like a little baby. Don't really like that. And also her clumsiness. Like, I know that's a very like pick-me-ish trope to have, and a lot of authors love having their main girls like that's their flaw. They're clumsy and they trip. But the one thing I dislike is, personally, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself clumsy or a klutz, but I do consider myself accident prone, and I'm not always that aware of my body. So like, I'll like hit my head on the same place in the kitchen where the cabinet like meets my forehead exactly multiple times and never learn my lesson because I just like forget, and I forget to like have body awareness sometimes, or like I'll hit my toe on this same stupid little bump on the side of my bed and like always just make that mistake because I always go and stand there, that kind of thing. So I do consider myself quite accident prone sometimes, and it's just very irritating having to read about a 17-year-old girl who cannot walk without breaking an arm. You know, I don't have an issue with female main characters being clumsy. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I hate when it's like that unrealistic, I guess you could say, because again, like, I feel like it's very, 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 very rare to actually be that clumsy where you are just tripping and falling over your feet like a newborn baby, you know? I feel like some of us may have been that clumsy when we were like 12 and trying to look cute for guys, and that's what all of the books told us to do, kind of thing. Which, like, let's not go into my thoughts on that, but yeah, I'm not a fan of that whole shtick. 3 stars, it was fine. On to New Moon. I am just enjoying the journey. I'm not reading this to have high ratings. I'm not reading this to read good books. I'm reading this to have a good old time. So I'll see you when I see you. So I have officially finished New Moon, and I did end up giving it 3.5 stars. I gave an extra star to the book for Jacob. He is my favorite character. We ignore the character assassination in Eclipse. Extra star for him, otherwise it would have been a 2.5. Out of all of the books and movies, plot-wise and what happens-wise, usually New Moon is my least favorite because nothing happens. But it's also probably one of my most favorite because that's where Jacob really gets his little starring role, so kind of up in arms about it. Much like my review for Twilight, I really don't have much to say other than the fact that, you know, it's New Moon. I am noticing that the books and the movies are starting to separate with this film. It definitely felt like a lot more was happening in the film than in the books, but I also knew that was coming, like the whole Basil scene and Breaking Dawn I know is not a thing and things like that. So yeah, that's really all I have to say. I did enjoy it. This has been fun. The books are incredibly long though. Like, they are way too long. I haven't started Eclipse yet, but I'm going to maybe tomorrow, and it's 16 hours, and then I saw Breaking Dawn was 20. Not enough happens to warrant that kind of length, but what do I know? I'm enjoying it though. This has been a fun challenge, and yeah, like I keep saying, this is just something fun for me to do. I'm not looking for the next best piece of literature or anything like that, so I'm just having a great old time. But I am going to go and start Eclipse, and I will be back when I either have more thoughts or when I've finished it. So I'll see you when I see you. a lot to say as of right now. I just wanted to check in. I believe I'm almost halfway with Eclipse-ish, and I only have the one update, but so far I'm learning that this is the book where I start to dislike the book characters specifically. In the movie, the vampires were a lot less controlling of Bella than they are in the book, and in Eclipse it really drives me insane how much they treat her like an infant or like a possession. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not Bella's #1 stan or anything like that, but it's just very frustrating watching an 18-year-old girl be treated like she's a rag doll that they can just dress up and lock in rooms and throw around however they want. So it's very irritating, and especially it's all done to keep her away from Jacob. It's not done to protect her from Victoria. It's purely just to keep her away from the werewolf, so I really don't like that. And that's really all I had to say. I'm starting to dislike the Cullens a lot in this book, and I'm a little scared that it's going to be downhill from here. But that being said, the movies are so separated from the books for me that I'm okay if I don't like the books that much, if that makes sense. I know that probably sounds like insane, but the movies are comfort food movies for me, but because I've watched them so many times without having read the books, that they're almost two different entities to me. So if I don't like the rest of the series, I'm okay with that. I'm gonna try very hard to finish it though. I really don't want to DNF the series. Even though Breaking Dawn is unreasonably long, there's no reason it needs to be 20 hours. I heard it's like nearly 800 pages. And the battle in the Breaking Dawn movie doesn't even happen in the book. I know that, so that's actually despicable. No reason to be that long. Anyway, yeah. Kind of taking a turning point. Don't think I'm gonna rate this one that high, but I'm only halfway, if even that. I think I might be just under halfway, so we'll see. Maybe it'll take a turn. I don't know, but not really liking the vampires at all right now, so. Back, and I've officially finished Eclipse, meaning I'm nearly done with this challenge. This series has kind of gone a little bit downhill for me. Eclipse was unfortunately only a 2-star, and the reason for it is because this is where the film and the books kind of deviated for me a little bit. So in the books, I feel like the vampires are so much more controlling and baby Bella so much more than in the movies. And quite frankly, do I understand why? I guess, sure. Does it make sense? I guess, sure. Do I like it? Absolutely not. I hate watching this 18-19-year-old girl be babied as if she is a toddler, which I guess she technically is to the Cullens, but either way, it's just so infuriating, and like basically all of her autonomy is taken away by these vampires, and I'm just like so over it. So didn't really like it that much. This is also where Jacob's character assassination happens, and he kind of just turns into a whiny little brat. But yeah, basically I just wanted all of the Cullens to shut their big fat mouths, and I wanted Jacob to stop everything he's doing, and I was just annoyed. And then also at the end of Eclipse, where Edward is like, I'll take you right here, right now, in this field, Bella would not have said no. Absolutely no way that she would have said no. I don't know who this Bella is that decided to be like, no, I'll wait for marriage. Like, no way Bella would have said no. She's been thirsting after him since the minute she laid eyes on him. There was absolutely no way she would have said no. She would have jumped his bones, and no one can convince me otherwise, including Stephenie Meyer, because she's wrong. She doesn't know her characters, apparently. So that's all I have to say. I have not started Breaking Dawn yet. I've taken just like a teeny tiny little break. I should be maybe starting it within the next week. We'll see. I am not gonna throw in the towel. I am excited for this to be finished. I'm still happy that I finally read this whole series and I can finally see the differences. Still love the movies. Probably will never pick the books up ever again. That's fine. We're just gonna keep going and see how everything turns out. So wish me luck. I am finished. I'm so happy. I'm so excited. Do kind of want to watch the movies all over again, which is hilarious because watching the movies is what made me want to read the books. But anyway, I'm not a maniac, so I probably won't do that. But then again, it's basically September, so is it not the perfect time of the year to watch Twilight? Anyway, I finished Breaking Dawn and I ended up giving it 3 stars. What did I think of Breaking Dawn in itself? I thought it was fine, much like Eclipse. It felt very different from the movies. And by very different, I mean not that much. I do think that Twilight, for the most part, has done a very good job at keeping the movies and the books very similar, except the movies are just a bit more exciting. And less drug out. So the movie was funnier, definitely. The Nessie, you nicknamed my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster scene, didn't even really make me giggle in the book, whereas in the movies I cackle every single time it comes up. I love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes ever. And that being said, one big difference that I knew going into this book was that the big fight scene with the Volturi in the book is just a conversation. So I knew that going into it, but I couldn't help but be disappointed over the fact that it still was a conversation. Like, I was hoping it'd at least be tense or something. Maybe it's because I knew everything was going to be fine. I don't know. But it just, I don't know, it didn't hit for me. I definitely do think actually that it's because I know what happens. I think if I had read this not knowing what happens, it would have been much different. But point is, I was still disappointed even though I knew about it, but again, not the end of the world. And yeah, that's really all that I have to say about Breaking Dawn. I know my thoughts were pretty minuscule on the actual books, but like, I don't feel that there's too much to talk about in regards to them, especially since I feel most people have either watched the movies, read the books, or both. However, I don't know, despite the fact that these books weren't necessarily the most enjoyable for me to read, I'm still very happy that I finally did read them. And I'm also very happy because it ended up actually answering some questions that I had from the movies. Like, for example, I never understood how Ragnarok and Jacob were going to work out, because I was like, well, she doesn't age and Jacob ages, so how does that work? And as far as I'm aware, it was never addressed in the movies really, so I thought she was going to turn him into a little vampire as well, and he's going to be like a wolf vampire hybrid so he could live forever with her. But then I found out in the books that for some reason werewolves don't change, like they don't age unless they choose to no longer be a werewolf or something along those lines. So that really helped me understand the actual relationship between them a lot more and how that would work. I was also very shocked to find out that they're not actually werewolves, they're shapeshifters. I don't know, it's a bit far-fetched. And one thing too, this is not my idea by any means. I don't know where I saw this months ago on TikTok, but someone said that Stephenie Meyer's vampires are much closer to being fae than they are actual vampires. And honestly, I genuinely think I would have preferred that if they were just weird, unique fae, especially because fae themselves, they don't have a specific origin, they don't have a specific story. You get really animalistic fae, such in like the Cruel Prince series, and then you get like superhuman fae, such as in the ACOTAR series, and all of those kinds of fae are accepted because they don't come in one simple form, you know, like there's also flower fairies, there's so many different kinds. So I feel like if instead of vampires and werewolves, they were fae and shapeshifters, or just different types of fae, and they didn't get along, you know? I feel like that would have made a lot more sense. It probably would have not been as, I guess, make funnable as it was with the sparkling and the no fang, which I still don't get why they don't have fangs. But anyway, the venom, the being made of like stone, like all of that would have made so much more sense if they were fae. And I also think the fact that the werewolves or shapeshifters would have just made sense if they were like a different species of fae. So from now on, I'm just going to choose to believe that they're both different species of fae instead of vampires and werewolves, because in my brain that just makes so much more sense. Because yeah, are vampires fictional? Yeah, can you really do anything you want with them? But like, you have to stick to some truths. You know, I don't know, because they're a myth, they have established truths. So I feel like changing it this much just makes them not vampires anymore. Like with werewolves, for example, if you keep most things the same except like, oh, they can shift anytime they want, not just on a full moon, and steel doesn't actually bother them, that's two things out of many things, you know, so it's not that big of a deal. But literally the only thing that Stephanie Meyer kept the same about Twilight vampires versus any other vampires is that they're immortal and they drink blood, and that's really it. So that's my personal opinion. That being said, I'm still very happy that I read these books. It was a fun time. I was kind of hoping I would like them more because, I don't know, I love the movie so much, but it's not the worst. It's not that bad. So overall, still a happy gal. I'm happy that I can finally say that I've both read and watched the Twilight Saga. Now I feel like a true and real fan. Will I reread the series? No, probably not. I think I'll just stick to watching the movies personally, but it was a great time. I enjoyed it. I'm happy it's over. And what a year. What a year. I can finally say that I read it. After the first time I tried to read it was, I think, 2010. And like I said, I didn't comprehend English well enough to be able to read a book of that level yet. I could speak English fine, but like my writing and reading was still very much in the learning stage. So at that point, it was just not in the question for me. And then I kind of just lost interest in it, I guess. And I was also a kid, and I was a part of that group where girls got made fun of for liking Twilight. So I didn't want to be like the other girls. So I didn't read Twilight, which is really stupid. We've all decided and acknowledged that it's stupid. So yeah, I'm very happy that like 13 years later, I have finally read it and enjoyed it, and I will keep watching the movies at least once a year until I die, probably. Honestly, I love those movies with everything that in my soul. So let me know if you like the series, if you read it, if you think that it is worth the amount of time, because it's a long series. It's a long series where not a lot happens. So let me know if you think it's worth actually reading it, or do you think it's just better to watch the movies. If you like me or my videos, I would really appreciate a like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.